Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast, a lovely observation of life where we explore different topics and different aspects of awakening and consciousness. And this is a two-part series because I said in the last episode of this podcast, where we were speaking of dark entities and forces, that the next episode will be higher powers, elevated beings. So this episode will cover different beings of light that we can perceive in this reality, in this realm of consciousness that Earth is in. Because remember, there are different galaxies and different beings, and consciousness is in different layers depending on where we stand and how we look at it. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing, and tuning into these podcasts. I'm happy that you all enjoy it. And again, I've said this before, in everything that you hear, always use your discernment. And every time you hear a word, that's maybe the first time that you hear it, and you feel an energy pulling you towards it, then I advise you to read more about it, research it, because you might have connections to different entities, different realms, and you can be connecting to your ancestors, to your past life, or you can even connect to the future self of your bloodline. So however it shows up in your reality, just allow it to be however it wants to be, without controlling or holding on to anything, not even different concepts. So be open and free. Let's dive into this lovely observation of life, where we now are observing higher powers and entities. I don't want to put them in order, but it will automatically be sort of like an order of higher going to lower vibrations. But all of these beings are mainly in the light of love, of elevated consciousness. And so it is many names that I will mention, and I will try to pronounce them as accurate as possible, give them context, and also share my stories with these different entities. So first, I want to briefly speak of general higher beings names that you might have heard of before. For an example, archangels. Their role are in many religious traditions. Archangels are powerful spiritual beings who serve as messengers of God. And they're often perceived as very protective to humanity. Great examples are different angels of directions. So north, south, east, and west. The main ones are, of course, Michael, which is often seen as a protector and a warrior against evil. If you want to ward off anything that's in negative spaces, you call in the energy of Michael, and he steps in with the color blue. So you can go to very depth with it, and you can perceive it also if you have an encounter with Michael, which is possible. You might see blue light or an orb or feel that great energy. We also have Gabriel, which is known to deliver important messages and guidance. That's Archangels that you probably heard of. And to mention all directions would be Uriel and Raphael too. So that's all the directions of the angels, including Michael and Gabriel. Now, if we move to Hinduism, we find them called Devas. And Devas are divine beings of gods, and they're associated with various aspects of nature and cosmic orders. So they represent light and goodness. And Devas can be connecting to a place. So it can be different places and different energies that the Devas serve as connecting and knowing the energy of that place. So you have to connect with the Devas and ask this is especially important if you want to connect with a place and clear it, because I've called in Devas in certain locations where it was not reciprocated at all. That Deva did not want anything to be healed in that place, and it was supposed to be the way that it was. And since we don't know the bigger picture, I wasn't having a conversation to continue. I felt like I wanted to heal this place, and the Devas said no. And so I just followed that guidance and left it be. And then I've been to other locations where I do this pyramid visualization, going above the whole space, but also below as I clear it out in a golden light that appears. And in one place, I ask the Deva, could I clear this place? Because it keeps happening things always in that space. And then I got the message that it was okay. And so I cleared in that space. So I feel like because Devas are connecting to nature in such a deep way that they know the vibration of the earth, of the place, of the meridians going through the earth and how it works and what's going to happen in that space, that it is always advisable to ask the Devas in different locations if it is okay to bless, if it is okay to do certain things in those locations. Another great one is elemental beings. So these are nature spirits. These beings are associated with elements, of course, like earth, air, fire, and water. And they are believed to influence the natural processes. For example, sylphs are air element, undines are water element, gnomes are earth element, and salamanders are fire elements. And you can probably hear these in stories, and salamanders, you can see them a lot in tarot cards in the fire deck. So the wands, that would be a direct association to these elemental beings. And elemental beings, you can connect with them in the forest. I connect with many different beings when I'm in the forest, and I had a close connection to many of them. And so I feel like you can individually connect these different energy forms. And of course, you have to be open, and it's like these tiny elves. If you are not open to perceive them in that dimension, because also these beings, like an elf, would vibrate so high that they're almost invincible. So the more dense you are in this reality, the more visible you are to the naked eye. The more you vibrate higher, the more it's like you become more invisible. And so in order for you to connect, first of all, you have to be in a higher frequency yourself to be able to perceive them or even see them. And then you have to consciously be open. So the mind can cause blockages to where you can't see magical beings because you have that filter. You have a logic filter that doesn't allow you to perceive them. Therefore, this connection with elemental beings becomes very personal and depends on how far you can reach out to them and they reciprocate with you. I'm very connected with my sign. I'm a Cancer. I love animals. I love to take care of them. They usually come towards me and follow me. I had a dog yesterday, and he saw me in the forest, and his owner kept saying, "Come on now, we have to go." And he came and he greeted me. He went up to my knees. It was a little dog. And then he followed me the whole way that I was walking in the forest before I walked out and say goodbye. Then he followed his owner. And so I have this natural connections to animals. I'll have to take care of them to make sure that they're safe because they're so innocent beings. And I'm always surprised of how they can even trust humans, because humans shouldn't even be able to trust ourselves because we have so many patterns and we become so complex with everything. It's nice to be around animals for me personally. Definitely, element being is something that I'm connecting with, and I've seen many beings in different time frames depending on what they're trying to say to me, and also connecting to Mother Earth. So she's the nourishment of all the animals, and she will send you different animals in different parts of your life as guidance. So you just have to use your discernment and know what that animal stands for and why it is connecting to you. And if you're curious, also to find your spiritual animal. And again, these are higher beings, even if it's gnomes, and they are earth elements, so they can be more, they can appear as if they were dark, just like elves can be very feisty, but they are still in the light and they are serving a positive. They're just very cautious. And then we have another category of ascended masters. So ascended masters are basically spiritual teachers, and they are enlightened beings who have transcended the cycles of reincarnation and offer guidance to humanity. So it's often like the last time you were incarnate to Earth, because you're already ready and you are already done with all the steps needed. And it's when I've asked and meditated upon this is when ascended masters, can they choose if they're going to help? Because some of them maybe don't want to help. And in some cases, they choose that they don't want to come back one more time to help. Often in many spaces, and it's that they choose to always come back one more time so they can give the guidance and help with specific teachings or philosophies, just to bring that in, so to solidify something that's out of purity and a reminder of home. And so spiritual teachers always, even if they have transcended, always return one more last time. to help out. There are many different spiritual teachers. I have a whole deck in tarot cards, many beautiful, but Saint Germain can be one. Kutumi is another one. Saint Germain is associated with the violet flame and transformation. I usually get him in my tarot cards when you are transcending or changing or releasing karmic connections. And Kutumi is more of wisdom and the spiritual knowledge of knowing that everything that you know is kind of within you. And there are different ascended masters, from Jesus to Buddha to I have my teachers that have taught me from my time, and Ramana Maharshi is one of them. And his teachings and his disciples that I've been connecting with that are still alive. And so ascended masters can be a broader. And Maria Magdalena, she was also ascended master. So ascended masters can have they can come from different directions. So it depends on how you want to hear their message and how you're connecting to it. And then we have ancestor and spirit guides. So many traditions honor ancestors and spirit guides as they believe that they provide wisdom, protection, and guidance from spiritual realm, okay? And in this category, I feel like Indians or Native Americans are the ones that actually are mostly connected to their ancestors, because they had dances and they had these spiritual consciousness elevating dances where they were connecting to the ancestor, they were connecting to the Devas, to the land, they were connecting to so many things. And therefore their guidance was very open, and sometimes they didn't even have to do anything like ayahuasca or use anything to enhance their spirituality. They would just dance into a trance. And of course, we all can hear these different ceremonies that uses different beverages from nature to enhance the spiritual experience. But the best one is when you are in complete soberness and clarity. That's when your consciousness is actually matching that. So when you push yourself beyond, it can become distorted. And, negative energy loves to jump in distortion. So I wouldn't advise anyone to use ayahuasca in those different spiritual, there are many different ceremonies that use ayahuasca and plant medicines to enhance spiritual awakening of some sort, but it becomes so temporarily, and then you come back to yourself. So you haven't achieved much. It unlocks something, but if you're not ready and if you're not mature in it, you kind of open up dimensions to where negative entities can enter. So in my experience, I would advise don't do it. Just don't do it. It's better to have your spiritual awakening in your consciousness to elevate itself to when it feels ripe and ready to reach another level of understanding. And so those were connecting like bigger, higher powers, light energies. And now I want to kind of go into what I mentioned the last time in this podcast, vaguely, but I want to get into it, and I want to start with Seraphim. It is always depicted as a fire being of light. Seraphim is associated with divine love and purity. And so they are believed to be the closest to God. They serve as attendants in the heavenly realm. And we can find Seraphim in the book of Isaiah. And this is in Judaism. And Islam and Christianity, actually. So it's in all three of them where we can hear about Seraphim. The second one is Cherubim, and these are known for their wisdom and their knowledge. Cherubim are often portrayed as guidance or divine mysteries. So they're depicted with multiple wings, so they have a lot of wings, and these supernatural beings are thought to protect and be in sacred places. And this is described in the vision of Ezekiel, and he's one of the major prophet priests in Judaism, in the Abrahamic religion. So that's where cherubim comes from. And then we have the thrones. So the third one is the thrones, and they represent divine justice and authority. So they are seen as carriers of God's throne and believed to assist. You can see it as an administration of divine order in the universe. And this is found in Christianity, angelology. And so if we continue down, we find in number 4, spirits of wisdom. And these beings, they embody divine wisdom and understanding. So they guide and inspire individual towards enlightening and deeper knowledge. So the spirits of wisdom shares their wisdom with you when you are elevating your consciousness to a different level. So you have a deeper understanding, and then wisdom is getting shared with you. And number 5 is spirits of the motion. So spirits of motion is associated with dynamic forces of the universe. So these spirits believe to influence change and movements, promoting growth and evolution. So the spirits of motion is basically everything that is in motion. So it's the dynamic forces of the universe where everything always moves, and they support and they promote growth in that. Then we have the spirits of form. These beings, they are responsible for manifestation of physical forms and structures of the universe, so helping to shape and organize creation. So they help with the form of everything. And they've been different beings that remember their time of before Earth was solidified and there were gases and you couldn't live on Earth. They are beings that even can remember themselves being here as a form of clearing out these gases, making Earth a place where you can actually live and things can grow. And so the spirits of form is something that you could have, even as a human being, been a part of at some point, if that makes any sense. But they help with the creation and creating shapes, and so that it's solidified and we can perceive it with the naked eye. In number 7, we have Archai. Archai are seen as the leaders of the angelic hierarchy. So they're overseeing the development of time and space. They're very connected with time and space. And they guide the evolution of humanity's consciousness. And the Archai comes from the ancient Greek. And here, many entities, dark entities, come also from ancient Greek. And we can hear these stories of the different goddesses, Aphrodite and Athena, the goddess of wisdom. And so there's many different, and Zeus and Hades and all of these. There is a connection here to that. So again, some beings are, again, I can see these Archai as nature elements. They have a connection. as an elf might appear as being very aggressive, the same way as they say in mythological that mermaids, as they have found out in later discoveries, that they were not actually cute and beautiful singing. Like they could sing like sirens and lure in, but they had sharp teeth and they were aggressive. It was not how they were depicted. And again, if you would live in an ocean where there's so many predators, of course you can't be sweet and delicate because you won't survive in that environment. So really it makes sense. But again, not to branch out too long there, I'm gonna just bring it back. The Archai are the leaders of this angelic realm. Again, we come to number 8 here are the Archangels, and these are the powerful messengers that I mentioned before God. And Archangels' task really is significant missions. So they're often associated with protection, healing, and guidance. And it's a broader, they can protect a whole nation when it's war. So they can really protect in bigger scales. And they can protect different groups of peoples that are being attacked. And then from Archangels comes number 9, and it's angels. And here is the most familiar celestial beings. Okay, angels serve as a personal guide and messengers. They often support guidance and protection to individual. So with angels, I feel a strong connection because when I was alone growing up, I didn't have many friends, but I was always connecting with angels. And I thought it was strange. I was like, I don't have any physical friends, but they're non-physical and I can't explain them, but I know that they're there because I could feel their presence. I know my body could register when an angel is close by. I could register when it's my angel saying, hey, we are changing. You are going into a higher consciousness. Are you ready? And I can give you an example, very simple. I had a psychologist. This was a big, where my angel really made a statement of being there. And I had this psychologist for maybe a decade, very long time. And I worked through many issues. And I just came to a space of, because my spirituality has grown throughout that time. And I just came to this realization that I'm just going to keep talking about the same thing here. It's just talking. It doesn't make sense. Why am I talking? And just having that epiphany that I was finished and I have given everything that I needed to give to her, because we were also connecting. And she has given everything that she needed to give to me. And I just had this clear clarity saying that you need to stop here. You need to. So it wasn't like the psychologist said, okay, now we're finished. No, it was me making that decision. Like I'm done here. I know I'm done. Everything that I needed to do here has happened. And the last time I stepped into her office, I felt this presence of this huge energy, the angel. I just felt my angel the way that it was present, but it was like celebrating with me. It was so big that I felt it, that even she felt it. To one moment, we were just, she couldn't say anything. And I don't know how she perceived it, but I just felt it so clear in that moment. And I was like, yes, this is my confirmation. The angel, my angel that is guiding me, has also confirmed that this is the last meeting. And it was. And it was very beautiful. It was such a beautiful, and that transition was perfectly shown. And it's so nice when you live in a physical body with these experience with all the senses, that when those are connected, it is just like, it is a nice confirmation. It's nothing that I'm striving to always get, but when those moments happen, I really appreciate them, and I keep them to my heart as my connections to my angels. So I always say, thank you, angels, when I feel their presence, when they're clear in my mind. It can be a simple thing as there are a lot of negative traffic coming through my mind, and I know I'm not my mind. I know I'm not my body. I know these things, but still I'm living in a physical body. So when I'm in a certain place and it's a lot of negative traffic, there can be many negative thoughts. And then in the instant of a moment, I feel my angels' presence and they just reject all of that. And all of a sudden, all that traffic just stops. And I say, thank you, angels, because they just clear it out. So if you can connect with angels, if you can find and ask in a meditation, is there any angel connecting with me? You will always have someone that's guiding you. It can also be your ancestors that are coming back as guidance. But there always is an angel that is guiding you in your path. And they can change depending on if you elevate and your frequency change and your consciousness change, you can change also the angels that you're working with. Because again, when we have done an assignment, when we have understood something, then also the angels are like, okay, now another angel is coming in to step in to help you on this journey and this part of it. You know, it's like we're always elevating. We're not stuck with one. And so it's very nice to work with angels because I've personally worked close with them and I have them as many friends and I love them dearly. And so let's continue on number 10 here, and we are jumping into a little different kind of flavors, and we have the Pleiadians. So also known as the Nordic angels, emphasizing love and spiritual achievements. These beings are from the Pleiades star cluster, often described as spiritual, advanced, and benevolent, okay? So the Pleiadians were the first race in creation, really. They are already in the 5th dimension. And there are many starseeds. And starseed, we're getting deeper into that, but that's from different galaxies. And so if you're from a different galaxy, you might have incarnated as a Pleiadian and feel connected to them. And especially if you're jumping from the 3rd dimension to the 5th dimension, which my channel on YouTube is Dimensions of Love. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's different dimensions. So we have this dimensional shift from the 3D reality where we are receiving the 5th dimension, 5. And so we can also see that as we have the 4D, 5D, also the radiation, the way that we surf, the way that we use internet is also 5G. All of that has connection to the dimensions that are available. So 5G that we can use with our where all of our devices are the same way as the 5D dimensions. So it all ties down to each other. One cannot exist in one dimension without the other. So that means that when we started using 5G on Earth, that is when we could actually enter the 5th dimension. And again, 5G is very dangerous for us because our bodies can't handle it. I mean, it can create so many difficulties for us because we don't have a protection suit for it. We haven't advanced to it. The same way with the 5th dimension. That's why when you are stepping in from the 3rd dimension, and you can see that on my channel, I talk about this. When we're stepping in from the 3rd dimension, we are going to jump to 5D and then come back because you can't stay in 5D too long. For the first, the vibration of Earth doesn't allow it, and we live in a modern society. So even if you are in 5D, something's going to pull you back. Unless you're a master and you're in one space and people come to you like a satsang. So you're in your energy field. And even then you connect with other beings that are coming from the 3D reality. So you still have to bridge and meet them somewhere. But to be in 5D constantly, you can't. Right now, you can't. In the modern society, you will jump. The best ones that have expanded their consciousness can jump. So they jump from 3 to 5. And that's because you need to function. Otherwise, in 5D, people that are in 3D get intimidated by humans like that because you appear strange. You appear because they're in the lower frequency, so they start to get afraid of you. But it's the opposite. You're actually loved. But because they're in lower frequencies, it appears like that. So that was a little bit short, but Pleiadians are many that we're connecting with, and they're more in this blue color too. Let's go to number 11. That is Arcturians, and they are known for advanced technology and healing. So highly advanced beings from the Arcturus star system. And we can hear the Arcturians mostly in the New Age movement. So I tried to cover all religion and interpret all the light beings from different angles so that you can understand. So this one is more from a New Age movement. So if you're into New Age movement, witches and all of that, you probably heard of Arcturians. And again, they help with the technology, and the technology is very big. But again, a two-edged sword, it can go and appear to be very dark. If you don't understand it, you have to see it from that point of view. Number 12 is Sirians, and these are guardians of wisdom and spiritual evolution. So these beings are from Sirius star systems, original builders of planetary architecture. So they are really forming different realities to appear in your eyes so you can see it, because if it's planetary architecture, it really is, everything is in the mind. So Sirians have an advanced mind to begin with, and also because every being in the light is here to, in different avenues, elevate humanity, elevate consciousness in itself. And why I'm mentioning more star systems now is because since we are in the 5D, we are connecting with different star systems. And before, Earth was very closed. We were not allowed to connect outwards because we had a dense, many beings from, because I'm a channeler, and many beings like reptilians, all of them, when their planets started to shut down and they needed to immigrate somewhere, most of them, lower vibrational beings, came to Earth because Earth has a big variety of different layers of consciousness. So it's different levels that can meet. And it's very beautiful in that sense that we can connect to so many different dimensions. At the same way, it can be very, very crowded. So Earth is being very crowded, not just with humans. People say that, we're overpopulation. Why we're talking about overpopulation has really nothing to do with the physical human being. We're also overpopulated in different dimensions. There are different beings that are invading the space, the energy field, which is making it very crowded. So that is very important to know here. Why we are mentioning these Sirians is that they are connected. Different star systems are finally connected to us. Before, we didn't have that connection. Now, we are so many beings here and we have started to elevate. That means that our connection, it is like the universe saying, if you're in a lower vibration frequency, you can only go to planets that are of the same kind, in a lower vibration. When a planet or different galaxy starts to elevate their frequency, then all of a sudden they start to connect with different galaxies and they're being seen from different galaxies. So this is what happens here on Earth. That's why this connection happens right now. So you probably are connecting with some galaxies for different reasons. Either you're reincarnated from there, but we're going to talk about this moving further on. I just want to go down this type of list. Again, it's not in order, but I'm trying to make it in such an order where everyone is included. So please don't take it exactly that way or that number that these lights are in. In number 13, I have the Lyrans, and these are the creators and the wise being from the Lyra constellation, considered to be one of the oldest extraterrestrial races. And I've connected with Lyrans. I've meditated upon the first time I even heard about all of these beings coming into my consciousness. And I had no idea. So I started to study and research who are all of these. And I was so connected, and I felt an emotional connection to the Lyrans so strongly, where what happened to their planet and their race, it was very tragic, but it was beautiful. They were so intelligent. They're so intelligent that some Lyrans decided, if we can create everything, if we can do all of this, then we can rule everything. And then there were different Lyrans that said, no, we have to still stay, even though that we have the intelligence to do all of that, we still need to stay in the intelligence of being in the place of love. And they already predicted, and that's where I felt the connection, that I was part of those in love, saying that, hey, I know you all are so intelligent and it makes sense to do what you're supposed to do, but please don't do it because it's going to ruin everyone. And this is what happens. The Lyrans, the intellectual, the very, and they were so clever, that they decided, no, we're going to take over. And what happened was, the second that they did that, they went against the universe. And so the universe brought the same energy and their planet got destroyed. So their ending was so tragic. And still, Lyrans have this energy of reminding us that even if you have the intelligence, even if it feels right and it makes sense, because we become so powerful with that knowledge that we get drunk into it, that we always have to remember ourselves from love and from patience to all beings. And Lyrans connect with me in that way, that they're connecting to me to love and saying that it doesn't matter how much you know, how you elevate your consciousness, you always have to stay humble. You always have to stay humble. There's always someone that can teach you something. There's always someone that you can teach. Therefore, don't ever put yourself to the highest where you start to look down on others, because that's the problem. The higher consciousness you have, the more knowledge you have, it's easier to start to believe in one being better than the other. It's just something natural that happens. So to be careful with that. And so I love the Lyran story, and you can look into that, but I had a very big connection to the Lyrans. And they look like lions also. So it's very interesting how different shapes and forms can connect. Number 14, I've put Andromedans, and these are inhabitants of the Andromeda galaxy, often seen as peaceful and enlightened beings. These are focusing on unity and consciousness expansion. So every galaxy, every being has a certain point of focus, an aspect that they're focusing upon. As you can hear, all of these beings serve in the light. So whatever they're bringing is still elevating the consciousness and everything in the whole universe. As you can see, that the light is always made as such that they have a focus point and they elevate in that. So Andromedans are really focused on unity and consciousness expansion. So they're known as the freedom lovers. So they're here to elevate Earth. And you're probably connected to Andromedans. And I've connected a lot with this energy, a lot. Through my awakening, I feel like these beings were really, really connecting with me. And I did a lot of research and I understood that, okay, so their consciousness expansion, that's why I'm being so connected to them, because my consciousness is elevating. So it's very interesting to see. And I hope that these different beings that you're hearing now, that you're connecting to something, that something is resonating inside of you. So then, again, please do your research and connect with it. Feel it in your body, because they will connect back with you if you are open and your consciousness is ready to perceive it. Number 15, I have Orion Beings. And this is now, we're getting into a little bit more different flavors of dimensions and beings. But the Orion Beings are very close, because it's the stars that we can see, and they're warriors of protectors that they're really connected with human evolution. So they have played a big role in human revolution, and they're very connecting to logic and parts of existence. So things have to be logic. And again, because the Orion Beings, it's connecting to these stars that we can see physically, they are connecting to these earthly 3D vibrations. So therefore, they're connecting with warriors, and we have a lot of still this warrior energy on Earth that we have to fight to expand. We have to fight out of something. We have to be embodying this warrior light inside of us. And then we come to 16 here, Starseed. Now I want to explain to you all what Starseed is. It's individuals from various star systems with unique missions that originate from other star systems that carry unique spiritual mission on Earth. And so I want to say what Starseed, there can be so many different avenues that these and different star system that they come from. It can be very, very, very far away and very close by. I've connected spiritually with, now there's a very loud sound outside. I hope I can fix this sound so you can hear all, but Starseed are really different beings. So with different, some of them they have different stories. I've connected with people that have connected, and I've read book you can read from Dolores Cannon. She has put people through deep hypnosis and heard them speak of their different lives that they have had. And some of them remember how they've connected and that they came here to Earth to do something. But then Earth is so dense. So when you pulled in Earth, you're stuck in Earth. It's like a recycling system. So if you come from outside and you're a higher dimensional being, when you get into Earth, you're stuck. And that's why when you see spaceships, they always elevate. You never see, if we want to take it into that level, you never see them really step foot or on the ground. And usually they will float. If you see any being that's not from Earth, you will see them almost float, like you would see a ghost float. And they're not floating because they can't touch the ground. They're floating because they're in a different frequency. So then you just elevate from the ground and go higher. So the same way higher beings, they float. And there was one particular story that I found very funny, but it just made so much sense. That this being, when he came to Earth and he was staying in Earth, and it was a little bit different, he had to have this coat of being heavy. And this coat was very, very, very heavy to hold him down because it was kind of floating. And he helped these people to how to plant different seeds so they can get different crops. And it really, really helped that society that he was a part of. And when he died, he dissipated in tiny fragments on Earth. So eventually he'll have to come back, and he comes back to this woman that is in a deep hypnosis, and she remembers that was her. That was her past life. She's one of those particles that has that's stuck on Earth. And this woman was she was a bigger woman, and she was really there from the beginning to understand why she couldn't lose weight. And everything was connecting to this past life, to where she had to hold herself heavy enough so that she could be grounded, so she can be stuck here. And she had a sadness towards it. So it was the same thing that was holding her in that energy field, which is very funny how it happens like that. But it is these different stories that we can connect with Starseed to why they're here. But most of my research, I've come to find out that all of these starseed, when they touch Earth, they can't actually leave Earth. That's the sad part with higher dimensional beings, that if they touch Earth, because Earth is still dense, Earth is not in that conscious, higher consciousness than 5D, that even if it's 12 dimensions that we can perceive, it's still less because there's so many more dimensions, even portals to our body that exist. But let's not get into that. I want to just really keep it into holding this space for the light beings. And so if you come into Earth, you get stuck on Earth, basically. And so you'll continue as a starseed to live as a human being because you can't go anywhere. And again, they just will burst into dust, and that dust comes through a body and in cells, and becomes a reincarnation within that body that remembers parts of those stories. And angels, when I ask the angels about this, they always say that you don't have to remember. And Dolores Cannon and many others that have worked with these type of energies have got the same message. I've got the same message too, that it doesn't matter more. The past can be more of a burden. The past needs to be an understanding of why this body that you have today is connected in that way. But if the past becomes you're royal and now you're looking down on everyone, then your past is really a hindrance to your growth and your consciousness. You need to be conscious. You need to be open. You need to know that every role that you had is not really important. And at the same time, every role that you have is important if you utilize it in the right way. If that makes sense. And I want to mention here on number 17 is Venusians. Venusians is the first category here with fictional beings, but really they are a true beings that we are connected to Earth. And I want to say connected to Earth because in Dimensions of Love, I make videos on the full moon, and the full moon is connected to woman. The woman is the full moon. We're dark. We want to rule, but it's not good for us to rule. A man should rule, and he should be in his light because men are the sun, and that's our connection. And so we want to control the man to do what he needs to do, but that becomes an imbalance because it is the man that needs to take care of the woman, but he needs to be in the sun. And Earth is right now, it's not imbalanced because the moon, the woman feels betrayed by the man. And so she's taken the role to be the sun and the moon. But if we forget about the most crucial part of it is that the sun brings light to the moon. The moon cannot bring the light to the sun. And therefore, when a woman is unbalanced, and this is not to speak of a woman of that she's not good enough, because it's absolutely not like that. It's that you need to understand if you're born in a physical body and your physical body is a female, you need to understand that you are born in moon energy. You are born in dark energy. That means that you need to have your balance with a masculine that is in his sun, is in his light, and he can then balance the feminine. So these energies are what is happening right now on Earth, the polarity. And I speak of this in my channel, Dimensions of Love, that you can see. But on this podcast, I want to mention this because Venusian is connected. So the moon is connected with Venus, and Venus is connecting with beauty, but also with darkness. So even though that embodies Venusians are fictional beings and an embodiment of love and beauty, which is really emphasizing the beauty of our soul, it is also the opposite. This beauty that likes to control and have this perfectionism and becomes dark. But it's connecting to this moon. And And it's emphasizing harmony and compassion from these fictional beings that really feels connecting to that. If you can see a different dimension, you can also see this being of energies. So Venusians are really strong goddesses. And we can find reptilians and frog-like creatures from this planet. And some women have that energy. And I can see those people that have reptilian connections to them. And I can see women that have the frog-like creatures. And I can see them. I'm like, that woman can capture so many. I can see it and I can recognize in them. And again, the women are connecting to the moon. And the moon originates from Lilith. And Lilith is Adam's first wife that he, the story becomes very deep here, but the connection is here that Adam's first wife divorced him and she becomes very dark. So she's Lilith. And then Adam has a second wife, which becomes Eve. Again, you can see the Trinity there, and you can see, again, a man with two women. And you can see on Earth right now that we are 2 parts woman and 1 part man. That means the man needs to be able to handle 2 dark moon of woman, and they should be able to handle that. That is what the framework of Earth is. Are we doing that? No, we're not. And we have different assignment to do. My assignment here on Earth and why I have my channel is that I want to bring not just awareness, I want to heal the feminine, the moon of understanding what we need to do. And that we don't need to stand in power and be very powerful, because that is what is happening right now. And it becomes this feminist and we're rejecting. And it can become very dark because we actually need the man. We actually need the man to stand in purity, because they can only keep us calm and safe so that we can flourish in our feminine energy. So you see, it's that both really need each other. And we need to understand that. And also, because we're more parts woman, we have to have a more beautiful sisterhood. And not a sisterhood where it's this feminist that we're rejecting the male. No, a sisterhood where we help each other out as sisters. And we form bonds like that. We don't reject each other because of men. We form beautiful bonds together, and then we acknowledge the man, which makes it even more beautiful in the end. That is the part that I'm playing in this existence, in this form of body, and what my guides and my angel has guided me to do, that I'm doing in my way, which is not always perfect, which is just completely raw and honest, the way that I want to say. And I want to mention these angels, and you're perhaps wondering, why would I talk about the dark beings before I talk about the light beings? It's because, again, I want to mention the simpleness of the tapestry of the universe is mostly silence and dark. And then galaxies of light appear in it. That means that darkness is more than light. And it is a balance in that way, because darkness cannot exist without light. You see? Then darkness disappears completely. So darkness needs to have some contrast. And the light will always exist regardless of the darkness or not. But because of the darkness, you can see the light shine even brighter. That's the beauty of it. And I want to take it back before finishing these the talks about all of these beautiful beings that I'm so grateful that I even can mention them all, because they're so amazing, and they've done so much for humanity, for consciousness, and I want to send a love throughout all the dimensions. I just want to end this on saying that there is a Hindu story originated back, and I'm not saying it completely the way that it was from the beginning, but I just want to take that part that's so important that talks about the darkness and the light. And it is, if we see the flower of life, the first ring that forms, that is the creator, that is our home. And then more rings were created in order for the first ring to see itself, to mirror itself. So the creation was alone and felt like, hey, if I create something for me, that I can see myself. And if I can see myself, I can see something else. I want to make something fun. That's how the source of love is. It's fun, and it's creating all that. And then when it has created enough rings as a flower of life, it became something very beautiful. And then creator said, okay, but I want to create something completely the opposite from me. And so the darkness was created. And the darkness, the way that the darkness is, took God and chopped him up in thousands of pieces and throw him out through the galaxy. You can see that as God being chopped up in thousands of pieces, thrown out to all of these galaxies and every star particle. And then the darkness said, which was also a part of God, that now you should find yourself. So it became like a search to find for creator or God to find himself back. And the story is so beautiful because it makes sense to everything to understand that it's how consciousness is. Consciousness is conscious, but it had a little game with itself and played to be unconscious in order to come back to consciousness. So it's this beautiful dance and this beautiful contrast of making creation in this beautiful way. So I love that story because it really describes the tapestry of the dark universe and all of the stars that are making it shine bright. So I hope that you enjoy this episode with the higher powers of a light that are in higher frequency, and perhaps that you even learn something here. And thank you for tuning into this podcast. As always, have a wonderful day, and I'm sending love your way, everyone. Bye.